Hi, I'm Nan Simonsen, and I am a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. I've had quite a day and I wanted to share it with you because I am throwing a meal together. It's about 20 minutes before my husband comes home, and I'm throwing a meal together based on something I saw in a book that I want to recommend, or at least a company I'm going to put this a little higher. I want to give a shout out to Rancho Bordeaux. Is a bean producing company, and I mean legume. Not only heirloom beans, but also some adopted from other areas, for example, garbanzo beans, and they grow them beautifully. They're very responsible. And I like their cookbook. I browse through it. And one of the things I do a lot is that I'll make beans. For example, this dish, an Italian style black garbanzo salad. Now that was something they grew, but it wasn't something, of course, that's an heirloom or an American bean. And a lot of their recipes have you cook their beans the way they recommend you cook beans. They're not crazy about a Instant Pot, but that's what I do. For example, well, let me finish that sentence and I'll get back to the other one. But I do that all the time. I will cook a large pot of a bean. I will freeze it in its broth, defrost it, and then I can pick this up because they have you cook it, and then they have dishes you can put together with cooked beans, and therefore much more quickly than if the whole thing began with you soaking overnight and then starting the recipe. Well, I came home, I had something in my refrigerator that I better use soon because I took it out of the freezer a few days ago, and I was flipping through quickly, and under quick ideas, I really liked the look of that. Doesn't that look just lovely? It's actually 82 degrees here in Southern California. It is April the 7th on a Monday. And this is it, saute or braise hearty greens with morel mushrooms. I don't have morel mushrooms, it's getting crimini. Combined with Marcella beans, that's one of their white beans. Any of their white beans, the milder white beans will do, or less hearty is what I mean rather than mild. And the bean broth. Hey, I can do that. And this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it, and it will be ready for us to have our meal. I just came back, well, I spent several hours tearing apart my pot garden, refreshing the soil, and putting in, actually rather late, it should have been in March, some tomatoes and peppers and hot peppers and eggplant, and I'm going to have a dedicated pot, of course, to mint and some other things. And then I went for a massage, and I love to have a scalp massage. So I kind of don't care. So I'm mentioning that. So if you think, oh, well, she's a mess, that's why, and whatever. All right. So this pan is hot. Most recipes say add a bunch of oil. Add oil. First of all, olive oil is probably the only other plant oil I would use. And yet I don't add oils to my cooking. The problem with olive oil, if I did this, is that it starts to degrade at 375 degrees. That is its smoke point. And you don't saute at 370, you usually go higher than that, or 375. So I don't even do it. What I'm going to do is I have a hot pan. This one is an all-clad, and it's non-stick, but the All-Clad brand has a safe method for non-stick. And if you could hear this, I don't know if you can, because I came home and also threw some laundry in the dryer, so I got all these things going on, but I just figured I'm doing this, I'm going to show you. And there's a piece of onion in here. This was 3/4 of a large onion. And I always start, when I saute mushrooms, I don't use butter and I don't use oil. When I saute onions, unless they're shallots or maybe even leeks, which are a drier onion, I don't use oil, not only ever, but I quite often don't even throw in the broth that I would typically use. I will, but I'm in a hurry and I want to get this part done. I will usually cover it, and the moisture that is created by these relatively moist onions that start to weep their own kind of juices. And it's a good idea to saute onions and garlic and, let's say, carrot and celery before you throw it into a dish, because it softens it, and especially in the case of the, what we call aromatics, which are garlic, onion, leeks, it's the alliums, green onions, anyway, the onion family in general, including garlic. See, this is already weeping, and it's starting to, I don't want it to brown, but it is starting to color just a little bit. And I'm going to add, oh, I put it over here. That's another thing I do. I keep bits of vegetables in a 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and I make my own broth when the bag becomes too full to continue to add to it. Now look, I'm getting exactly what you want from sauteing with oil, and I'm not adding, I don't count calories. I'm 74. As a matter of fact, I wrote Aging Powerfully 4 years ago, began writing it in July. So it was in celebration of my turning 70, and I began in July. It was published the very end of December 2020, 5-6 months later, and that was 4 years ago. And, well, almost, I think 4.5. Now, and one of the things I talk about in Aging Powerfully is my experience then and still as a lifestyle medical health coach with a lifestyle medical practice. Did you see what I just threw in there? If you didn't, it was a lot of chopped garlic. Actually, 2 big fat cloves of garlic, because they add so much flavor. But those I don't want to brown at all, because if they do, they can burn very quickly. They become bitter. Now, what am I going to do with all of this? I am going to, for the hearty greens that they talked about, let me cover it for a minute. I'm using beet greens. So we have a farm store, and it's a huge tent in a 15-acre field that they pick, and they bring it into this huge tent and they sell it, and it's always fresh. And we stop every Sunday and buy more than it looks like we could eat in a week. I am whole food plant-based, as recommended by the College of Lifestyle Medicine. That's what lifestyle medicine is about. Pillars of health, including staying as close to plant-based as possible, because that has been shown to be the healthiest way to eat. Low oil, low salt, or for some people, no salt, no oil at all, and no sugar. And I have some salt, and I don't add oil, but I can't say I never ever use it. But I don't cook with it for sure. Anyway, so we stopped, and I got beets. You're familiar with red beets, but have you ever purchased golden beets? Look at that beauty. I batch cook, and either Sunday or Monday, yesterday, well, no, I did it this morning, hello. I batch cooked the beets in the Instant Pot, 1 layer, a rack, the beets, it was 3 big beets, and then all their leaves that came when I got it at the farm store, and then another rack, and a bunch of waxy golden potatoes that were not too much to put on the cover. Put about a cup and a half of water, set it for 10 minutes, because they were that size. If they were much larger, it would have been 11 minutes. And I cooked the 2 beets at the bottom, whether red or golden, because they can weep to the bottom. They're very strong color juices and not damage or color up the potatoes. So those were cooked today. Well, when I bought my beets, because I love them in a salad, I can eat them raw, I can eat them cooked, and I like them cooked and cold. She asked me, do you want me to take off the leaves? And I said, no, because the leaves are, I think, one of the best hearty greens you can eat in terms of how sweet they are. And I don't mean sweet flavored. I mean that they are very, very easy to eat without you having to cook, like let's say collards to get the bitterness out of them, or dandelion, or some of the other harsher greens. They're almost a buttery green, maybe a little like a spinach. So here was the beet. I cut off the beets and cooked them, and then I peeled them with latex gloves on my hands by just rubbing my hands over them once they've been cooked, and it comes right off. And I gathered them all together and cut them at the joint of the leaf and the stem. And then I chopped, getting ready to put this in, and then I chopped the stems because these are much tougher. And I'm going to put them in and give them about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 8 to steam. Well, sort of steam. We can call it saute, we can call it steam. But with the cover on, they're gonna steam. And they will be tender enough that in this dish they will be perfect. Now off to the side, I'm going to be chopping cremini. I'm slicing cremini mushrooms. And when I buy them at the store, I buy them loose, but I can buy them in a package. Whatever package they're in, I take them out and I put them in a paper bag. They stay much better in a paper bag. And these are just medium cremini. And cremini is a white mushroom that has matured longer. And eventually that cremini, if it matures longer, will become a portobello. But they're all grown very differently so that they have room. Okay, so while this is cooking, I just wanted to show you that bundle of leaves, and these will join it. And all of this had to be washed carefully because beets, all these ground growing vegetables, even their leaves, can get silty and sandy. So I put them in a pot of cold water, agitate, pull them out, drain, and then do it again, and then again 3 times. And that sounds like, wow, that's so much work. No, it's really not. It's not a big deal. So I'm gonna do that with the leaves, and I'll pull these off. And I'm not gonna chop them now that this is already there, so I will not be using those. Then I'll show you my beets, the beans, and I'll show you how quickly this meal that I've just talked myself through, and you're thinking, you're just wasting all your time talking. You'll see how quickly this will come together and how easy it will be for us to serve. So I will be back to you. See, I really am a little bit scattered. I put my starter somewhere, so I'm just going to see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. The greens are the basic, are tender. There's a bite to them, but that's good. They have body, but they're not at all harsh. So this is what I have so far. Nice, huh? Now I'm going to add mushrooms. What's gonna happen to all these mushrooms, looks like a lot, doesn't it? When I put them in, this is probably about a quarter of a cup, a pound, maybe a third of a pound of mushrooms. And as soon as they start to get cooked, or start to cook, they will start to weep. And so I'm gonna cover it again. I'm adding all of this flavor. Yes, I am challenging myself to do this with a hot pan and hot food, but the mushrooms are cool enough that I can use my other hand to kind of mix it all properly. I could have used another tool. Okay. And now, as soon as the mushrooms begin to weep, and I see that the pot has a lot of moisture in it, I'm going to pull off the top and I'm going to let the mushrooms, again, caramelize a little by turning the heat up enough to start evaporating the mushroom juice, and to, well, when you caramelize any kind of a vegetable juice, as I discussed with the onions in the beginning, you concentrate flavors. Okay, so I'm letting this cook, and what's going to happen is within, I think, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, the mushrooms, as long as, you know what, they have to have some moisture, so let's go ahead and add this, and then they start weeping. So within 5 to 6 minutes, this is on medium, the mushrooms, I'll look down and the mushrooms will be in a bit of a pool of broth. And again, I'll be watching them. I'll let them cook maybe 5 more minutes. I might bring you back in to show you. And then this is what I started to bring up earlier. My beans that yeah, they could be in glass. Some people, they don't use plastic for anything. I agree. But I have dozens and dozens of frozen beans, grains, soups, especially stews, all in my freezer. And I need something that stacks. I need something that stacks into itself so that I can have a lot of them available when I want to freeze things. And I just haven't found anything else that works. And these are so flavorful because when I cook them with aromatics. I cook them with some stalks of celery, not necessarily chopped up, some carrot, even though this was chopped, some garlic, some onion, pull it all out, but it flavors the bean broth, and so this broth is going to be lovely. And I may not use all the broth because I want this to be similar to what we saw. I want it to be a pot of beans with hearty greens. You didn't see mushrooms there, but I like lots of mushrooms, so I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of that. My husband's crazy about mushrooms. What are we going to have for dinner? Well, we're going to have a cream of vegetable soup, and I'll attach my link for that one. It's so yummy, and it's done in the Instant Pot, and this is it. And what makes it creamy is soy. So there's no dairy, of course, at all. There's no oil in it. And it's just delicious. It's zucchini, broccoli, and whatever else I had. I may have had some asparagus that I put in. It could have been just broccoli. It could have been just cauliflower. So we're going to start with that. We'll each get a little bowl of that, and then we're going to have a nice, almost a platter type bowl, big and wide, that we will have our beans in, and crusty sourdough bread. And even though I can't have it, I shouldn't, because even though the fermentation of sourdough eats up gluten, it still is there. Now, I've talked long enough, so I did this on purpose, to show you what I was talking about. See how quickly that was? Just a few minutes. Now, here. It's bubbling, 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 and the mushrooms are cooking well. And I'm just going to mix it and start to let it condense right now. And then I'll put in the beans, and by the time everything is cooked, these mushrooms will be perfect to eat. There's no need for them to become mush. See what a simple dish? And you could do so many variations of this. Now, what seasonings will I use? I could use anything. I could use an Italian seasoning mix. I could use a Middle Eastern Barbary mix, or is that North African? Barbary is North African. I could keep it simple with just a little bit of thyme and maybe a touch of oregano. I could keep it so simple that I do nothing but salt and pepper. So, I don't know. I don't know what I'll end up doing, but this is condensing. Can you see that? And we're almost out of, and this is on high. I'm going to do something. Ow, ow, ow. Ouch. You didn't see that. Never mind. I'm going to do it again because I'm too stubborn. I want to take that out and just taste it here. Okay. This is just perfect. Okay, I'm adding my beans. I don't want it to be a soup. I want it to be a brothy mixture. And actually, I think these beans, the amount of broth in these beans would be perfect. Oh no! I've been so busy talking, I didn't do what I should have shown you. But that's okay. If this were anything other than beet greens, I would have to cook this probably 10-15 minutes to get it soft. But beet greens, like spinach, will melt into all of this. And I'll show you when we're finished. So let me add my beans. I'm just going to put them all in, because now, especially with the beet greens in there, this is going to be like a thick, can you see how pretty this is already? Now look how full this is. When you see it again, the greens will have not disappeared, but they're going to have reduced dramatically. Okay, here's that mushroom I saved. See, I did have a purpose. Oh, great flavor. Okay, Nan, cover it all up. I'm gonna decide about my seasoning. I'd really like a Burberry in this. Burberry has some wonderful pepper and golden spices, red spices. I'm gonna turn it down, but still leave it at about medium. And we'll probably be eating in about 10 minutes. Anyway, I'll show you if I don't come back on, because things get a little too busy as soon as we're starting to sit down and my husband comes home. I'll show you pictures, but otherwise I'm going to just flip this back on and show you when it's just finished. So I think I'll do that. Okay, I am back. This is just too pretty not to show you. So I'm about to plate our quick, and I've tasted it, absolutely delicious. Beans and greens and mushrooms. I'll remind you of what we did. Sauteed onion, dry sauteed or broth sauteed onion, and put in garlic and cooked briefly the mushrooms until they wept, and then we caramelized them. I put in the greens, and you see what I mean with the greens. They've just disappeared, and they are, they're like butter. I cooked them about 8 minutes. I had to turn it lower. I didn't want it to bubble as much. And this is what we have. I have some big, thick slices of this homemade sourdough that we get from a local vendor. Okay, add a little bit of the broth. And I'm going to put, oh, I'll tell you what I did about the seasoning. I'm going to put some chopped, well, basically just sliced cherry tomato. I love the flavor of fresh tomato on a soup or a stew. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Absolutely delicious and easy and quick. And what I ended up using, I don't know if you know of the spice store, Local Spicery. Chef AJ talks about them a lot. They have well-sourced herbs, and they make spice mixes that are simply delicious. This one was Sole della Toscano, Sole della Toscano, and it has a Italian garlic tomato, or it is a Italian garlic tomato spice blend for pasta, proteins or vegetables, garlic tomato, rosemary, sage. What I've just read you are all organic. Lemon peel, a little porcini mushroom, there we got the porcini in, and some chili. And I added about 2 teaspoons of it. Can you smell that? It's really, really nice. I especially pick up the rosemary. And this will be our meal. We'll have a small bowl of the cream and the cream of vegetable soup. Would that be necessary before this? Absolutely not. But again, that was something that was in the refrigerator that I need to use. And I already have plans for tomorrow night's dinner. So that will be a nice starter. Just a little bowl of it. And then this with the bread. And we'll have a perfect meal. I hope you enjoyed this. Consider subscribing to my channel. I talk about health, wellness, longevity, aging with power, as well as feeding yourself beautiful, whole food, plant-based, and as healthy as can be. Have a great day. I know I'm going to. Bye-bye.